Alrighty, today we got actually got a super cool guest today. Yaro, is that how you pronounce your name? Yaro?
It's Yaroslav, the full name, but Yaro is
Okay.
usually what most people call me, kind of like my
Yeah.
online name, Yaro Bagriy.
Awesome.
Just kind of it's long. Yaroslav Bagriy is long, so I just shortened it down.
Yeah, Yaro. So, we got a chance to speak beforehand and get to know you a little bit, the whole podcasting scene and how fun it is, right, to have a conversation. And I know there's going to be a lot of different things we're going to be able to tackle today, but before we start, you want to do just a simple introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Yaro Bagriy. I guess my main focus is I like to call myself a full time side hustler, and I'm not
Yeah.
there yet, but that's kind of my end goal, if that makes sense. So basically,
Yeah.
what I want to do is have multiple different kind of streams of income, and I primarily focus on digital assets, kind of like websites,
Mhm.
SaaS, communities, podcasts, newsletters. That's kind of
Yeah.
like my main thing. But even outside of that, I do real estate. I have a few real rental properties I own. I have a stock dividend portfolio that I'm slowly
Yeah.
building up. And I just want to have multiple different streams of income. So, I'm just slowly building up these things. I run two communities. One of them is called IndieStack, which is a community for, independent or indie founders, kind of like digital makers, bootstrappers. And it's private paid community. I
Mhm.
also run the Newsletter Crew podcast, which is a podcast to help you become a more successful newsletter creator.
Yeah.
And I just recently acquired a company called Indie Mailer, which is also another paid private community that I've just integrated that into Newsletter Crew. So now it's a podcast, kind of a podcast blog and a community at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm I'm working on one SaaS at the moment right now, kind of in that ideation phase within the newsletter niche.
Yeah.
And I'm just working on that one SaaS, and from there, hopefully I can get enough income to quit my actual full-time job and just do this full time. Like that's the main goal, and that's the only thing I've
Definitely.
been focusing on these last probably 8 months now, and it's probably going to
Yeah.
be for another, for forever. I hope, hopefully, like
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. So that's kind of like my kind of background info, kind of
Yeah.
just the general info, and we can dive in to different
Definitely.
parts of that as we move in.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because, like I mentioned to you before we started recording, is that I followed you for just a short time, but I love the newsletter scene. I love what you're doing with newsletter. I saw Indie Stack on Product Hunt, and
Oh,
I
nice.
that's how I found you. I connected with. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. Let me go check in with who's running this, and sure enough, you were able to respond. I appreciate you for that. And yeah, like you said, I think the overall goal too, with online business is to start as a side hustle, and then you kind of amass a certain income where you could comfortably leave your 9 to 5, right? So I love that. Can you kind of talk about a little bit about your start, like the foundation, the business, the online business journey you decided to take, and when that started?
Yeah, I mean that's a I mean that I mean I can go back pretty far. I mean, so I mean, I'm from Ukraine, so I
Mhm.
came from a pretty, I would say, pretty poor family actually.
Mm.
We came here with maybe $100 in our pocket about 23 years ago. I'm 28 now, so I moved here when I was five with my
Oh,
parents,
wow.
and and I've always been, I've seen that side. I've seen the money issues. I've seen the all that kind of stuff. Working hard, and I kind of understand the value of a dollar, and I understand the value of hard work. And
Yeah.
that kind of led me to I kind of saw how hard my parents were working, and I was like, yeah, I got to do something that's that's a little more, that's better. I want to make it worth their time to actually come out, move pretty much the whole, their whole lives essentially.
Exactly.
So I ended up majoring in it, pretty nice major. I ended up getting an electrical engineering degree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I went there and I was like, yeah, I mean, this is going to be, one, I wanted to be in the tech space because it's the up and coming thing, and I just see tech
Oh, yeah.
being, the number one thing.
Yeah.
5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I mean, this is it. So I
Yes.
was thinking,
Yes.
what's the best major to do? And I was like, okay, so let's do electrical engineering. Got my 4 year degree, bachelor's of science in EE. Really
Nice.
liked it, but it was just I started working after college. Actually, I started noticing that the work isn't it's fun, but being controlled, not necessarily being controlled, but essentially having a boss that kind of tells you what to do. I mean, the money was great, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so I was an intern there, and I just started noticing, I kind of want to do something on my own. I'm working for this company. I'm going 8 hours a day, spending my time,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then I'm building their product, right? So I'm building something that sure, I might have some,
Mm-hmm.
how do you say, like, I forget the word, but basically, sure, they might say my name, that like, hey, this guy worked on the product, but it's not my
Oh,
product.
like the
It's their
recognition,
product.
right? Like a
Recognition. There we go.
recognition.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the, like, I don't get the recognition,
Correct.
and sure, they do recognize you, but I mean, it's never your product, right? You're working on
Yeah.
someone else's dream. You're working on someone else's vision. So that kind of just got me, that sparked me, if that makes sense.
Correct. Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah. Of
sparked me to
course.
be in that, art entrepreneurship route. And,
Yeah.
I started with, in the startup space. Obviously, that's kind of where everyone gets into the high growth, high, I was
Yeah.
watching, what's that one video called? For the movie with Mark Zuckerberg,
Oh, the social network.
Social Network. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, dude, this guy sold his company online
Right.
business for $1 billion or whatever it was. I mean, it's huge, right? It's huge. I
Yes.
was like, I got to do this. I got to get into the startup space, make my own
Yeah.
thing, sell this company off, make millions of dollars. And,
Correct.
and I kind of started that. So, I started a company called scoutapp.com, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a kind of mobile app to find mystery bars. And, I did the
Oh,
iOS
okay.
development for that.
Okay.
And
Nice.
that obviously that failed pretty hard, as as most people,
Yeah.
most first endeavors, right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I that kind of got me into that. I still kept with it. I did a few more projects that were kind of in that quote unquote startup space, having a team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Stuff to do in kind of the medical space. And I just ended up noticing that, this high growth venture capital world isn't really something that I kind of want to be in. I mean, it's actually just as stressful as having a job, and just as risky as well. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
I kind of took a break, right? So I kind of took a break for a good year or two after, a few
Okay.
startup failures. And I was probably around, I'm 28 now. I was probably around, 25.
Okay.
Then I took a break for a little bit. Actually just kind of from the whole startup scene, and met my
Yeah.
girlfriend, who's not my wife. And
Awesome.
and then just
Love it.
recently had a baby, actually, which I
Congratulations.
kind of was talking about that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And and that actually kind of got me back into this whole thing and this whole startup space, but not, then now I'm coming at it from a different angle, if that makes sense. Now I want to do
Yeah.
this indie, like independent. I want to be independent. I don't want to have funding. I don't want to have, because even if you take funding from a venture capitalist, you
Yeah.
still have a boss. You're still beholden to them and kind of their choices and when to sell and what to do. And if you're not growing fast enough, then you got to raise another round. And it just
Correct.
almost seems more like as stressful as having a job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got me into this indie space, right? And
Okay.
I started realizing that, I want to take control of my own time. I want to buy my own time back.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed, spending 8 hours at work. Um,
Yeah.
After that, it's like, sure, I might get a few hours spent with my wife and kid.
Yeah.
But I want to spend more. I
You want to
want
have
to take
full
control of
you
my time.
exactly. You want to have full control of that of your schedule.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that kind of got me started into this indie journey that I'm on right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of answers the background question of how
No,
I kind of got started into this
I
kind of
think
whole world.
I think you did a great job packaging up, like you said, you could have gone way far back, right? Until when it started and the mind shifts and when you decided to do this on your own. So I think you did a perfect job of packaging that up and making us look back at your journey, right? And it's really interesting because I think, personally too, it's so funny you mentioned EE. I actually that was my proposed major going into college myself too.
Nice.
But I realized that calculus 2 and me would never get along. So I was
Dude,
like
Calc 2, I'll be honest, Calc 2 was the hardest one. And Calc 3 and 4,
yeah.
it's like much easier than Calc 2, dude. Oh my
See,
God.
I could even experience that because I couldn't even get past Calc 2. So, I said screw this, and I actually went a whole different route into the cognitive science route, so psychology, things like that, and that's where I fell in love. But I didn't see myself as like becoming like a clinical psychologist. I wanted to use psychology in business marketing, right? So yeah, I totally
Nice.
resonate with the story and your background slightly in terms of it's very subjective. I'm very careful with saying I resonate because everyone has a subjective journey themselves, right? It
Right.
doesn't look alike, but I totally know what you mean. So definitely. Now, becoming a father, like I could also relate to that because I do have a 17-month-old daughter myself. I kind of want to talk about
Nice.
that as yeah, it's definitely a fun journey. It's definitely something that's enlightened me and definitely pushed me, right? I bet you could relate with that. But my
Yep.
question
Yep.
my question regarding that, and being, you know, a husband as well, right? Because sometimes we focus too much, you know, if we look at the indie hacking space and whatever tech space founders, all this tech space, right? It could be very we could get lost in the hustle culture, right? You got to work so many
Yeah.
hours, you got to put your head down, you got to sacrifice even family time. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you do your work life balance, you know, now being a husband and being a father, how that really influences the way you balance your work and also your time with your family, because it's very important.
Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah, and that's a tricky situation because like I don't know if have I found that work-life balance. I'm not sure.
Mm,
Obviously, that's something I have. Obviously, I'm sacrificing my free time at this point in time to gain more free time later. At least
correct.
that's the hope, right? So the hope is to put in those extra hours after work and on the weekends to
Yeah,
then not have to work for for the man essentially, and then I get those 8 hours back and I can cut back on my on my weekends and on my nights. But
yeah,
I mean, currently, like it's tough. It's tough. I'll have to say, I got to cut the sleep down, right? I mean,
yeah.
one, I don't really sleep that much, anyways, because of the child, like of the baby, right?
Yeah, correct.
Waking up at like 2 or 3, just kind of to feed him. Then he wakes up at 6 or 7, and it's like, okay, I'm up anyways. But
Yeah.
basically, cutting down on the time, and so I mean, I wake up at usually around 6 or 7 every day.
Okay.
I start work at 7, like my actual day job at 7. And what I do is I'm an iOS developer as my kind of my full time job.
Yeah, okay.
And I do 7 to 3, so at 3 o'clock I'm done, and I'm done. Like that's it. Some
Mm,
people like to take it a little further. Maybe there's an extra thing that they got to do
yeah,
for their boss or for for the sprint that they're running.
yeah,
I do take that seriously, and when I'm at work from those 7 hour or for those 8 hours,
yeah,
I'm working. I'm not slacking off. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on, whatever.
yeah,
I'm just not slacking off. I'm just doing my work, and I'm just trying to get as much, everything done as possible.
correct.
Just so I can actually finish at 3. And then sometimes, sometimes I finish a little earlier and I just leave at 2:30 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Um, but basically what I'm trying to say is with the work, I max it out at 8. I don't go overtime. I work 40
Mm,
hours at the most. If
okay.
they need me to work more, I mean, planted for the next sprint or for the next week. I mean, I can't really do much about that. And if they're not happy with that, well, I mean, they might have to find another person. But my output is worth what they're paying me. So I don't think that's a problem.
Correct.
So
Okay.
that that definitely boxes that time out. So
Yeah.
after that, I do I do a quick run and I do a quick workout, usually about an hour. I go for a run or for a bike, and that just gets my mind and it kind of breaks up the day.
Yeah.
After the workout, I know that like I'm now in my other
Love it.
life, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I'm on my own time, and that kind of breaks up the time.
I like that.
Um, so yeah, I mean, like how to manage all of this. I mean, how I manage it is, I just try not to slack off. I mean, I try to use every minute that I can, every 10 minutes, any 5 minute slot that I have. I mean, I'm always just working after
Yeah.
work, if that makes sense. And,
Yeah.
if I got if I got 5 minutes for whatever reason, I just go on Twitter, I tweet something out, I start building that audience. I mean, I have a bunch of different systems that are working
Yeah.
simultaneously,
Yeah.
just so I can utilize every single minute. Also, with the sleep, I go to bed at around 11 o'clock. I'm usually working from, try to, on Monday through Friday, I try to work 3 hours a day after work, right? So I'm on my own projects. And then
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, I try to do 5 hours. So 5 hour on Saturday, 5 hour on Sunday.
Yeah.
And Saturday, Sundays, I usually spend most of the time, with my family,
Correct.
except for those 5 hours that are usually early in the morning
Yeah.
and late at night. So when my son goes to bed at around 7 p.m.,
Yeah.
I usually just kind of straight up start working after that. I mean, that's it. That's like my
Yeah.
work time. And I really got to work, and I'm always also focused. And I
Definitely.
think, with the time management, it's also, what am I working on? Is the thing that I'm working on, is the
Yeah.
thing that I'm spending 1 hour on, I only have around 25 hours a week to work my projects, right?
Yeah.
Is that 1 hour that I'm spending, is it really worth what I'm doing? I don't want to
Correct.
waste my time doing something that might not have the good, the ROI that I'm looking for.
Exactly.
And the other thing that helps is, I mean, I don't know if it helps, but my wife's also doing full-time school. So she's
Mm.
also usually studying between 7 to 10 anyways. So usually that's
Yeah.
kind of our work time together.
Yeah.
And then usually we get an hour or two, maybe an hour every day, then maybe a couple hours on the weekends kind of together.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty packed schedule, right? And I just I guess I just don't slack off. I mean,
Definitely.
it's hard, honestly. It's hard to keep that consistency and that strength and kind of
Yeah.
that
The mental
energy,
fortitude.
basically. Yeah, the fortitude, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep that. You got to keep that fortitude every day. You have to know. And
Yeah.
when I do get down, when I do say like, man, I'm getting kind of stressed out,
Yeah.
or maybe a little burnt out, I might take the day off. I mean, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
you got to kind of look at, the long term. And then I
Definitely.
always have that vision in my head. I always have the vision of, the light at the end of the tunnel, that
Yeah.
I'm gonna have that time freedom, and I'm gonna be my own boss. I'm gonna have my own time back.
Yeah.
That's what I look at the very end, and that just keeps me going.
I really,
I don't know if I
yeah.
kind of answered the question there.
Yeah, no, I really like the fact it totally makes sense how you use the fact that you use the working out that 1 hour to yourself to kind of break away from your like you said, your previous life, which is your 9 to 5, right? So you use that time to transition. And I think that's actually a super critical point you made because and for me actually when I listen to that, I'm like, okay, that's really interesting because that's something I have trouble doing with. Sometimes I'm working on one project, but it's like I need to get something else done, but it's like there's no transition. And sometimes you could get lost with the mess in your mind, right? So I just started working out again, and that's definitely helped. So I really like the fact that you pointed that out. And obviously, being a father, there's a lot of different things you have to adapt to. The child waking up at 3 in the morning, hungry, things like that. But seems like you got a good system going on. And like you said, it's very fluid, right? Because I'm pretty sure you'll
Yeah.
adapt to different things. But no, that's a wonderful answer. Um,
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, the working out just it adds extra energy as well. Like
yeah,
I have more energy to work on my projects when I actually do that workout. If I skip the workout for whatever reason, whatever, there might be a meeting that I need to get to, or there might be some life stuff that I have to do. I mean, I have less energy. Like with that workout, I like after the workout, after I take that shower after the workout, I'm
yeah,
like, dude, I feel so much better.
yeah,
Grab another cup of coffee or something. I mean,
yeah.
just to
You're
just to
alive.
keep that energy up.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I want to talk about a little bit about your IndieStack HQ like venture, like how that started. Obviously, you mentioned a little bit about your interest in obviously being more independent, having full control, obviously bootstrapped, right? Can you talk about a little bit about that journey and how you actually got onto Product Hunt and a little bit about the growth you've done since then?
Yeah. So that's really like interesting question. And
Yeah.
so I started this, I started back on my kind of freedom journey about 10 months ago or so. And
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to do the indie route, right? So I found this site, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people know it. I'm pretty sure you know about it, Indie Hackers, right?
Yeah.
Indiehackers.com.
Correct.
I started
Yeah.
going on there pretty frequently. Yeah, and it's a nice site. I love Indie Hackers, love it absolutely. And it got me started in this whole indie world, right?
Yeah.
And I just and I was on there for about 4 to 5 months, getting back onto Twitter as well. There's it's huge. I mean, obviously you're connected to the whole internet, you're connected to
Yeah.
everyone pretty much. And after 4 to 5 months, I just noticed, I started noticing that I don't really have any friends, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
online, I don't have any friends online. I have acquaintances, I
Yeah. Yeah.
have
Yeah.
followers, right? And I follow other people. I know
Correct.
what people are doing, but I don't feel like I have an intimate connection with anyone. Especially
Yeah.
on indie hackers, I don't feel like I know anyone, and it's been 5 months, and I should at least know a few people, and I just don't feel like I know anyone. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, why not? I'll just create my own community. Indie hackers is too big, anyways. I mean, there's 70,000
Yeah.
members. I
Users.
think maybe there's even more. And I'm just like, I just can't connect with anyone. And so one reason is, these communities are just huge. Like indie
Yeah.
hackers is big. Twitter is just absolutely insanely huge. And
Correct.
it's hard to connect with people intimately there.
Mhm.
So that's kind of one big reason that I started IndieStack. The other reason that I started noticing is, a lot of people are doing this kind of this trick, and it's not really a trick. I mean, it's just a standard marketing value. It's called, like the value first, right? So
Yeah.
you start a post, you add your value, whatever it's the post about how to monetize your newsletter or whatever that post is. So you add the value, then at the very end, you just you sell, right? You sell whatever
Yeah.
solution you're selling. You either sell your SaaS, you sell your product, you sell your info product, your course,
Correct.
whatever that may be, you know, that's what you got to do, right? So that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. And I was thinking, like, man, like it just seems like this whole big loop where people are just selling things to each other on indie hackers, you know. And I feel like there's just so many people doing that, especially, you know, like on Reddit. Well, on Reddit it's maybe a little less because they, you know, the kind of you know, so sometimes they look down upon it, but you can see,
Yeah.
if you do the value first thing, it's you know, it's all the same.
Yeah.
On
That's a
Twitter
good
as
point.
well, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
and so that's kind of the second reason. You know, I just saw a lot of people selling things, and I kind of wanted to have a community where, you know, just a tight knit group of people,
Mhm.
not really, you know, not really trying to build an audience or not really trying to sell something to anyone. Like, I really wanted to connect, you know, make a like a private community that's tight. I don't want it to be too big, right? I don't want it
Yeah.
to be, you know, 10,000 people. I want it to be maybe at 500 at most, where just enough where you can kind of get to know every single person,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where no one's there to build an audience.
Yeah.
So that's the second reason, right? Is
Definitely.
too many people selling things online. The
Now,
third reason, oh, yep,
I
sorry.
just have a quick question before you go on to the third one because is that did that kind of influence the whole business model of like the subscription, right? Because you wanted to make it tight, you want to make it private and exclusive, and that way it led
Yeah,
to a business model of subscriptions.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's the big thing, and I've noticed, and I've been part of, no, I've just noticed, you know, if I put money down, if I have to
Yeah.
like pay for something, I just feel like I get more value out of it, and I feel like I'm going to use it more because I paid for it, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's kind of a psychology thing, right? You know, you put the
Yeah.
money there, you want to get something out of it, and you're not going to screw around if you know, if you spend your hard-earned money on something. So kind
Exactly.
of it puts a little wall up, right? So it puts anyone that's not super serious. And I do work with people, you know, if, you know, I understand there's people around the world, you know, like
Yeah.
right now it's $49 a year, and I understand $49, you know, for Americans, you know, it's not that much money, right?
Yeah.
Per
Okay.
year, right? It's like $3 a month. It's not
Definitely.
that much, but I understand that it's people from India,
Yeah.
maybe even, yeah, obviously, you know, where I'm from, Ukraine,
Yeah.
Russia. I mean, there's tons of people out there that, you know, the dollar just isn't that strong, right? And, you know, 49
Exactly.
bucks for them is a lot. So I do work with people, and, you know, if there's someone that, you know, really wants to be in the community, and, you know, and
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a good fit, and
That's
maybe they
great.
don't have the money, I'll let them in. You know, there's no, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, I put the paywall up just to not have people just join and then start posting
Exactly.
their things. I just want to have something, just a little bit of friction, if that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a barrier. It's like a filter, right? You want to, like you
Yeah,
said,
it's
you want to
filter.
keep
Yeah,
keep it intimate. You want to keep it private, or else you'd have an open, community anybody can join, but it eliminate that intimacy. So I mean, it makes
right.
perfect sense. But I also see where you also work with people to make sure it's accessible to different people, right? So yeah, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, and it's been working pretty well. And yeah, and so the third reason is, you know, I've started noticing there's a bunch of like, you know, even in the indie world, right? You know, we're talking small solo founders, you know, small bootstrap founders, or maybe a small team of 2 to 4 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Even there's like, we're, you know, the indie community is trying to be really, you know, inclusive, right, of everyone. But even then, there's like superstars inside of that community as well. You know, you got, you know,
Yeah.
Tyler Tringus, you got, you know, Rob Walling, you got, Justin Jackson. I mean, you got these
Mhm.
nice, awesome people, and, you know, they and obviously they're not going to give you the time, right? They're already
Yeah.
they've already made it. I mean, like, why? I mean, sure, they might answer a question, a few
Yeah.
questions to you. They'll respond to you, but you're not going to get into their inner circle. You're not gonna. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not friends with them, and I probably won't
Exactly.
ever be friends with them unless I also make it, if that makes sense. Like, so I
No.
was just
Yeah.
thinking, you know, like, you know, if I can't get into these people's inner circles, right? So I'm just gonna make my own inner circle. You know, I'm gonna have my own group of people and we're just gonna make it together. You know, and we're all
Correct.
gonna just take steps at a time, help each other out, and we're all gonna get there as a group, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the third reason. So there's like the three main reasons that I started IndieStack. It's a paid private community. That's Yeah, those are like the three main reasons. I mean, there's, you know, some smaller reasons as well, but those are kind of
Definitely.
the three big ones that I
Yeah.
kind of
And
that kind
kind
of
of
drive me to this vision.
Yeah, I totally get it. And to kind of go on top of what you said, I don't think it's that they don't want you to be part of the inner circle, right? It's kind of just like imagine their queue of people just asking questions or trying to
Right.
connect. It's like they're human. They can't physically
Yeah, they
get
don't
to
have enough
everything.
time.
Exactly. And I think sometimes people take that to heart because like, oh, they think, oh, they made it, they don't want to connect with me, but it's really not that. It's just people just don't have the time, and it's not that you're not worth their time. Is like there's a lot of people wanting to connect with this person, right? And it's a mind shift that needs to probably be happening within people, right? That okay, this person didn't respond doesn't mean they're egotistical or they don't like me, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of the like, and yeah, I don't mean it in that way. I
oh no,
kind of
yeah,
mean it in a
yeah,
way that you should find your own tribe, if that makes sense. You should
no,
find your
yeah,
own group of people that you're all in that same level, if that makes sense. You're not there's not one person that's super successful and another person that's just completely just starting. You got
one hundred
at least
percent,
a group or a tribe of people that you can work with and grow with together,
yeah,
which you probably can't find with like some of the bigger guys that have made it. I mean,
yeah,
it just they're on a different level. The things that they're talking about just might not make sense to you, might not even apply to your situation at this moment in
exactly,
time.
100%. No, most definitely, man. Another question that kind of came to me right now is one I'm actually very interested in lately, and I'm asking other people around me, asking myself every day, like when it comes down to community, right? Because all this is very community based. The foundation is community. What do you think is a key factor in actually starting a great community and also kind of making sure that that community you know withstands on its own and does that make sense? Like how can you make a community but also make sure that that community stays strong as time passes?
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And I think the big thing is setting an example. Right.
Mm,
Obviously, if you're going to start a community and you're not showing up every day and you're not
yeah.
committing to the community, you're not posting, you're not adding value to the community. The
Mhm.
other people, the community members are just going to look at that and be like, hey, I mean, he's not doing it. Why should I do it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big thing. If you're there, if you're 100, if you're giving your 100% every day, you're connecting with every single person. You're showing that you want to be there. You're actually being like a valuable community member,
Yeah.
like a community, like a citizen, essentially. I think people will see that, and I think they're going to, they're probably going to follow that same role, if that makes sense, or they're going to take lead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one thing, and the other thing is, trying to find people that you like. Are they, how well do they bond with you?
Hmm.
Are they talkative? Are they helpful even before they came into the community?
Yeah.
So just finding the right people as well to kind of have in the community will also kind of I guess drive it forward to be self-sustaining. And then I think a big thing is obviously like the size. It has to be there has to be just a certain size there. You can't just have 5 people in your community and expect all of them to kind of I mean unless it's a really tight group of friends. But at least when you start kind of growing, you gotta have at least maybe 50 to 100 people to actually 50 100 active people
Yeah.
in the community to then kind of support it each other, and conversations then start from not from you but from other people, and that kind of spin out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you kind of get to that self-sustaining mode, if that makes sense. So it's kind of
Definitely.
hard. I mean, you got to have to. I mean, it's a hard question, honestly, and
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I've 100% figured it out, but I think those are. I think leading an example is probably the big thing that at least I've seen a success with.
There's a book that I'm reading right now. It's by the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings. He mentions that so they have a no vacation policy over at Netflix, meaning they don't tell you you only have 2 weeks out of the year to choose from. They actually just allow you to take, if you want to take a 6 month vacation, you can. Obviously, there's some foundations you got to let your team manager know and all these executive, right? But one thing that he does mention is that in order for things like this to work, is that you have to model them yourself as a leader. So I think what you mentioned earlier on is like, how do you get more people to be part of a community? Is like, if the person who started the community is not showing up every day, then what makes you think that someone else will? So I think
Yeah,
that's a very
agreed.
crucial point. That's a very great foundation in any sense, whether you're building a Netflix, whether you're building an IndieStack, whether you're building a newsletter, whether you're just building a community of five. You got to make sure you pull up every single day and making sure you add that value, right? So I think that's a really great foundation. And that's a really great way. I loved how you answered that question. Now,
Yeah,
what
thank you.
what is one thing for, like, someone hearing this, an aspiring entrepreneur, aspiring digital product maker, right? Someone that wants to start a newsletter, right? What is one thing that, I know there's plenty of things you've probably seen and adapted to, but one thing you can tell them in order for them to actually maintain, I don't want to say motivation, but maintain consistency, because it could be hard, when you don't see it, subscribers subscribing to your newsletter, this a week could go by, you have zero subscribers, but maybe next week you have 15. But what is something that you could advise to someone to make sure they stay consistent with that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, just look at it as a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's
Mhm.
not, you're not going to, maybe there's people out there that can sprint a marathon, quote
Yeah.
unquote. I mean, obviously that's not physically possible, but sure, there's people out there that could go from 1 to 0, or sorry, 0 to 1, like, in a year or in 6 months, whatever the time frame is. There's people out there that can do it that quick. Most people can't. Most people, like probably 99% of the people, just, it just takes a longer time.
Yeah.
That could be 2 years, that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years, right? So I think the biggest thing is just look at it as a marathon and enjoy the process, right? And I haven't made it yet. I'm not quote unquote free at this point, and none of my projects
Yeah.
are, providing me a self-sustaining, sustainable income. But what I've been hearing as well is, it's always the journey, right? When you get to that peak, or when you get to, the top of the mountain, and, you're climbing Mount Everest and you're at the top, you'll notice that it's actually not what you're looking for. It was actually the journey there is actually what drives you. And a lot of people do that. They make it their SaaS makes, the 10K MRR goal that they reach, and
Yeah.
they realize, like, hey, that was good, but that's not actually what I'm looking for. I'm still not satisfied. Maybe it was just the journey. Maybe
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're looking for. So I think the biggest thing is, don't look at the result. I mean, look at the results, obviously, and you should be improving. But if you're not hitting those results, or if you're not seeing, the MRR growth, or the revenue that you're trying to hit, or the subscriber growth, I mean, it's okay. If you look at it from
Yeah.
as a marathon, as a 5-year goal, as a 10-year goal, I think it's going to help you understand, you know, what you're doing every day. And if you're not making it, you just know that
Mhm.
it's a long time, it's a long goal thing, right?
I love
I don't
it.
know if that kind of makes sense, or
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I think what I took from it is also that everyone has a different type of marathon, right? Like you said, someone could go from 0 to 1 a lot quicker than someone else, right? But I mean, objectively speaking, you still have to put in the work, So
yep.
I love it, man. I love it. Yaro, once again, thank you so much for stopping by, having this chat with me. Before we end it, where can people connect with you? I know obviously you have the newsletter crew, IndieStack, but in terms of connecting with you on a consistent basis, or just check in with you, where can people follow you?
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you for having me on. It was really nice. I
Yeah,
love, talking about, my journey, and having, and hopefully someone gets some use out of this.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, and where most people can find me, I think the best place is kind of like my home base is yarobagriy.com. It's YAROBAGRIY.com. That's kind of my main, you can subscribe to my mailing list there. That kind of has links to my Twitter, which is also just Yaro Bagriy, at Yaro Bagriy. Those probably the main places you can connect with me. You can also email me at yaroslavbagriy.com, or yaroslavbagriy@gmail.com. That's another way you can contact me.
Awesome.
But yeah, those are the main places. I'm always open to talk. So if there's any other questions from any of the guests or any of the audience that's listening, please let me know. And I'm always down to help anyone.
Awesome, Yaro. And for those listening, make sure to go check out the Newsletter Crew podcast. Also, if you're an aspiring, entrepreneur, online digital maker, go check out IndieStack, communicate with other people in that space. And on Twitter, I know Yaro, you're pretty active there. That's how we connected. So
Yeah. Go
definitely.
Twitter.
Yeah, that being said, thank you so much, Yaro. And it won't be the last time. And I'm excited to see what you have in store for all your projects. Interested to see what you're gonna acquire next and kind of build off of that. But thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you too. Thank you for having me.
Of course.